everyone. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Paranomaly Beyond Disclosure. We are a weekly podcast dedicated to sincere, in-depth investigations into the paranormal, supernatural, and the metaphysical, with a special focus on the UFO topic. We take a sincere, analytical approach, thoroughly evaluating each case and its implications. Our discussions go beyond the surface as we engage with researchers, investigators, and experiencers to explore the deeper layers of their testimonies. We strive for high-resolution analysis, carefully examining evidence, patterns, and perspectives that challenge conventional thinking. If you're looking for a podcast that seeks deeper understanding, you're in the right place. Please be sure to like and subscribe and follow to receive notifications when new content is made available. You can also visit us at www.paranomalypodcast.com for more content and information, including all our social links. Thank you again for watching or listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode of Paranomaly Beyond Disclosure. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in tonight. We have a great show coming up for you. We're going to be sitting down tonight with Kay Rose Golden. She's a lifelong alien abductee. She experienced everything from telepathic communication with an 8-foot tall Zeta being to terrifying encounters with Manus-like entities. This is her true story. She was featured on Linda Moulton Howe's Earth Files. This is going to be incredible, everyone. Kay, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So let's get straight into the abduction account. I just want to, as a primer, we're not going to do much of an introduction. I think we're just going to jump straight into it. But this is, you've had the abduction experience. I was saying to you backstage that this is very much similar to the abductees of the 80s and 90s of previous decades, where contrary to modern abductions, where a lot of people have some idea about aliens, you know, they have some, from all the movies and media exposure that, you know, people have had, there isn't a whole lot of ontological shock, and it isn't the same kind of experience that people used to have in previous decades. Your experience kind of sounds more like that. It kind of sounds more like the aliens are not doing anything to kind of assuage you or comfort you. It's kind of raw. They're just taking you. They're doing what they want with you, and then they're putting you back. And it's this kind of raw, sort of naked, no modification whatsoever on the part of the aliens. And so let's get into it. I think the most relevant abduction is, or the most important one, is the 2017 one that you had in Diamond Bar, California, shortly after you moved in. Maybe give us a little bit of primer. Your husband was in the aerospace industry. Mm-hmm. You had just moved in. He was starting, I think the very next day he was starting his job, which that is morning, a peculiar timing.
Yeah, that morning he had to start a brand new job. I believe that's with Northrop Grumman. And it was that early morning that this experience happened. In a nutshell, basically, 2 of the short, small, 3.5-foot gray beings were in the bedroom. But right prior to that, I had a sort of, I think it was a dream that I was in a mist or fog, and there were give
us that full dream. We'll all the details.
Sure. We'll cover. So I was in a mist or a fog, and there were some beings there, and they were reaching for me. They were cloaked beings. I mean, not cloaked like you couldn't see them, but I mean clothing, cloak. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Couldn't see their eyes or anything, and they had a pot of something cooking, boiling. And I got the distinct impression that they were reaching for me to put me into that pot. So that was the precursor. And then I know I woke up and I was like, what was that? And then I either went back to sleep, or that's when I felt the touch down on my foot and looked down over there past my comforter, going down inch by inch and seeing that strange being at the end of the bed. My husband was
that the very first thing you noticed, the sighting of the being, or was there a light first?
So the first part, the light was in the room after the dream. It was just a bluish white light, and I didn't know where it came from. I was thinking, emergency vehicles, okay, police cars, something. And then I thought, well, our windows are shuttered, closed, blocked with curtains. No light could get through there. So I was looking around the room. I was kind of on my elbow, left elbow.
You had gotten out of bed, or you were just looking?
I was still in bed. I was pretty much prone, because back then I laid straight on my back to go to sleep, and I was comfortable that way. Since then, no. But so I leaned on the elbow and I'm looking, and we had a bathroom right across from our bed that had there were no doors. So I looked, and they have those Hollywood lights around the mirrors, because it was a California home, and they were off. There was no light coming from there. I looked over to our bedroom door, which was over to the right side of me, and my closet door over to the right side of me. No light coming through there. So there's just this blue light in the room.
And no particular feeling that was unusual at this point in time, or was it just, where is this light coming from? You're just
yeah. So kind of going, okay, and my first thought from the vibration I was feeling, because there was a vibration going through my body,
right from the get-go.
Pretty much right from the get-go, and I was thinking earthquake. Oh my God, it's an earthquake, and that's why I thought emergency vehicles, blue lights, red and white blue lights, cop cars and stuff like that. But that wasn't the case. And then that light started shrinking down. And then I think I laid back kind of prone. I was still trying to be on that elbow.
Shrinking down as in how?
As in coming down, shrinking down to a smaller area, so that it was right over me on the bed, because first it was the entire room, and then it just kind of shrunk. So it was on the bed, and then it came right on down to me. And at the point where I saw the little gray being down at the end of the bed that was grabbing my foot, touching my foot, that's when the beam was getting really small. And
so is it shrinking down very, very slowly, gradually, or was it? So this almost seems like
it was not real slow. It was getting, and as the vibration picked up in me, I call it a vibration, I was also kind of out of breath. A lot of times my heart was beating really fast. You don't know what is going on, and you're looking through this, and then you're panicking, because this should not be happening in a bedroom in any society. Right. At night when you're trying to sleep and you're most vulnerable. So I'm sitting there, and it's shrinking, and I'm looking through it, and I'm looking down our comforter. And the weird thing about the light was that our comforter was white with some flowers on it in little areas. So it was like one row flowers, and then it was white, and then a little bit further down, more flowers. So the light was making those flowers glow like a black light would, made them the purple intense, the pink pop, the blue pop. That's what it was like.
Interesting.
And, okay. Yeah. So as I looked down, and I felt the touch at the end of the bed where the footboard is, under the comforter, this thing was touching my foot, and I'm screaming I'm trying to scream, with my voice, but nothing was coming out. But in my head, I'm flipping out.
Okay, pause for a second. Sure. Pause for a second before we even go on. So you're experiencing a vibration, and the vibration is changing as the beam is sort of focusing. It seems like the beam, like we've seen, well, some people have probably seen with lasers, you can have a laser that's unfocused, and then you can, focus the laser, and it sort of gets narrower. It almost seems a little bit like that in a way, like they were focusing in on you.
Yes.
And perhaps that's just the normal sort of procedure. And again, this isn't like, I think there was a detail that you mentioned that I want to cover. You said peculiarly about this light that it did not give any shadow, that it was unusual in that sense.
Yeah, there was no shadow.
Noticed that there
Four
was
poster bed should have been casting shadows of those posts, at least on my side, from any light coming in the room. There was no shadow.
So this
So that was
isn't a
bizarre.
light. Yeah, this isn't a light like we would normally define light. It's something different. I really think it's kind of like a technology, more that's a almost better description of it.
Right.
Some kind of
Right.
technology that has the appearance of a light,
Right.
but is not really a light in the sense that
Right.
we know it.
I thought it was, after thinking about this the next day, I thought perhaps that light was checking me out, scanning my body for disease and whatnot, making sure I was okay for them to take.
Maybe, yeah.
That's my thought.
Yeah, that's a possibility. And so as the beam is focusing in on you, you're also noticing the vibration is getting stronger, or
Yeah.
how would you describe the vibration in more depth? It was a slight vibration at first that
Yes.
resembled not any different other than the shaking, because you initially interpreted it as an earthquake or something.
Yes.
So it wasn't real unusual. It just felt like a
Yeah.
vibrating,
Yeah.
like as if the bed or house were vibrating.
Yeah.
But then it progressed.
Yeah.
Did it get painful? I've heard abductees mention that the vibration, and this is also the paralysis that they're putting on you. This is the beginning of the paralysis. Was it painful at all? And describe how it progressed.
My heart was beating so fast. I mean, it was just going at ridiculous speed. And I was trying to catch my breath, and that was the hard part. So there was pain there in my chest because I thought, I'm going to have a heart attack. This is that bad. I can't catch my breath. This is not, I'm going to pass out, whatever. And I already discovered that I couldn't move because I tried to move to my side. And that's when I had discovered the other being right over here by my head. And it was right there staring at me. And then reaching towards my pillow with its little four-fingered hand. So
you notice the beings. Describe in full depth what they look like, or what you could see initially.
So our bed was high up off the ground because of my legs and having to get into a higher bed at that time. But the being's head, I mean, probably only about that much, maybe 4 inches of that head was showing above my footboard. So I'm going to say 3.5 feet, not 4, but somewhere between 3.5 and 4 that I was seeing. And then what I saw was this pale gray, blue, tinge of blue, gray, almost deathly looking being with these big cat-like or almond-shaped eyes, black, that go, almost all the way around the head.
And you knew it was a head. You knew it was a head initially, right from the get-go.
Yeah, because the hand was coming along on top of the comforter. I could see the 4 fingers. And they had long nails, not claws, but long nails. Very creepy. And then it touched my foot so that's when I was just, oh my God. But
now, do you think the bluish tint of the being was due to the bluish color of the beam, or do you think it was a bluish tinted gray, an unusual?
They're gray blue. They are gray blue, but they're pale.
They are.
And these
pale as in kind of whitish, whitish,
almost ashy. What I thought was death down at the end of the bed. That's what it looked like. That's
why.
Death.
Why death?
Isn't that weird? And I'm not deeply religious. I don't know. Maybe because there
was a you mean a kind of sinister? It had a kind of sinister vibe to it. Yeah. I mean, that's how Whitley Strieber describes them. They kind of have a fierce look to them. When you see them, which you don't get the impression of like when you just look at a picture of a gray. If you just look at a picture, this is the sort of a weird sort of discrepancy that I notice, that if you just look at a picture of a gray, or most people look at a picture of a gray, unless you're an abductee and you have, repressed memories of them, which were traumatic, it doesn't look extremely fierce or scary, intrinsically. But yet when you're in the experience and you find one in your room at night, it's freakish, it's because it's very different than human, it's something that
It shouldn't be there.
yeah,
This
be
is an
there.
intruder in your house of whatever it is. I called it in the book, I think I called it a thing because I really didn't know. I mean, what else can you call it at night in the hours before dawn? That's not supposed to be in your room, but a thing. It's got creepy hands, it's got a creepy head. It's like big head, big eyes, two little holes for a nose, one little hole on each side for possibly ears or hearing vibrations. I think these are the robotic things that take people, by the way, not
I think they are
true
too,
Zeta
for sure.
Greys. These are the
Todd,
robotic.
do we
Yeah.
have a picture? Do we have a good representation of this that you sent in one of those emails? I put those pictures in the file, Todd. Maybe we can bring it up.
Let me go into the file here.
Now, so the almond-shaped eyes, they're big, they're black. Are they very slanted, diagonal oriented, or are they, we've heard from some abductees, they call into question the slanted nature that most people think the eyes are. They say that some people say, and I guess this could vary depending on the species. There's got to be more than one species. It seems like definitely there is. But they say that, no, they were more horizontal, some people say. They were almond shaped and they wrapped around, but they weren't as
I've heard
diagonal.
that too. These were slanted,
They
not
were diagonal.
horribly, but if you look at a cat's face, they had
Uh-huh.
that angle to them. I mean, just your normal, average, everyday, domestic, short-haired, tabby cat, for instance, that angle. So not super angled, but that angle, and not straight. Pardon. Very black, and the tall gray in particular in my book has these evil. I hate using the word evil because then
It seems that way, but it seems
they're mirror like black.
Mhm.
So if you look in his eyes, it just is soulless. It sucks you away, and I never liked looking at that. So whenever I dealt with that one, the tall gray, I try to look away.
When you say soulless and it feels like it, could you give more detail as to, so did you notice this right away the moment you looked into the eyes with the small ones, or did you have this experience of the soullessness and being sucked into it only when you encountered the tall gray? That's only with the tall gray.
These
And when
other
you look in
ones,
this,
they're just black eyes. I don't see any pupil, and to me, that's why I think they're robotic, because there may be some covering, or part robotic, part biological. I don't know, but they're just there to do the work. They don't have any feelings. There's no emotions there, and they're jerky. Their movement is jerky. They don't float, from what I could tell. I mean, they floated me up off the bed and out a closed, locked, shuttered window, which was horribly frightening. But
so they're not graceful. They're jerky and not graceful.
Yes, they're not graceful. That's how you can tell the difference between a live Zeta Grey on the ship, and there are live ones, and that type. And they also kind of wait on the ship, usually behind in a little cove or closet, whatever you want to call it, in the room that you're being experimented on. Basically, that's been my experience. But they're there, and they get called to attention to take you to help you undress. Actually, in my case, I think I was passed out, and they just undressed me.
And he touched you in the foot initially. I'm wondering if that was an intentional touch to almost alert you that they're there before you set eyes on them, as if that was maybe a better sort of two-step process than you just seeing them, like you're already aware that there's something
I'm
there.
already frozen. And when that touch came, I'm like, oh my God, what the hell? I'm going to use that word instead of the F word, is going on. And as I mentioned, I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. I think I'm being vocal, but my husband's dead asleep next to me. That beam that they use may also be something that knocks the other person out completely, whether you're in a car or a room or airplane or whatever. So
It's my feeling that the paralysis is a psionic ability of the beings themselves.
Yeah.
There's debate about this. Some people feel like, it's a technological thing. I feel like that's the only reason why they need to be in your room at all, at the initial stage of the abduction, because they are, and usually, and some people have reported, some abductees, that they didn't notice any paralysis going on, and then the being stared down at their midriff, and then they started noticing, upon the being staring at them, the paralysis effect and the vibration taking over. I'm pretty sure that it's a psychic capability.
It could be. And it could even be coming from the Tall Grey. This is the one with the marching orders on the craft all the time, always. And I think
and they also seem to have, in some cases, I don't know if this was the case with you and your husband, a gray that sort of tends specifically to the husband in the bed, or whoever else it is in the bed, if there's someone else, or even in the car. They have a specific gray that sort of presides over them. And then usually there's more, though, that are sort of focused on you. And that also gives me the impression that they're sort of psionically keeping at bay the bystanders and whoever else. But go on.
Yeah. So anyway, when it touched my foot, that's my heart rate must have just tripled. And as I said, the vibration just intensified to the point where I thought I was just going to pass out or die. Those were my two options. Mm-hmm. And then when that light beam had gotten thinner and thinner and thinner, and it was focusing just on my chest, which could have been causing my heart rate. It could have been causing that feeling of no way out, no escape type of thing. But at that point, that's when it was touching my foot, and I was looking down through the beam, and I'm seeing the colors pop like a black light, just like a black light. Mm-hmm. And then I, of course, can't move. And this one over here is four fingers on the pillow, and then it's looking at me, and my head, I can move my eyes, I can move my head a little bit, but I cannot move my body. And then almost immediately after that's when I started rising up, and that's when they moved me. And I thought physically, I'm thinking I'm going to hit the bedpost where my husband's head is, and then the ceiling fan was right there. It wasn't that high of a ceiling, maybe 11, 12 feet. And they're taking me up, and I'm going, you're going to kill me. That's a ceiling fan. And so I have this ability to think logically while this is happening, but I'm panicking still. And I'm going over my husband. I looked right down at my husband's sleeping form on the left side.
So you didn't just go straight up and out the ceiling. You went straight up and then over. They're moving. So
the window was over here by my husband. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, they didn't touch you with a rod prior to levitating.
No rod.
That came later. Wasn't there some device that came later? Okay.
No. This was all, like I said, the only thing I can explain that I can use to explain is that blue light that numbed me or scanned me, or whatever they wanted to do. But going through
they didn't take hold of you at all as you were moving?
So yeah, one was over here, one was at my feet. So one's by my shoulder, one's at my feet, and that's how they moved me over the bed. Now, I wasn't paying attention to their movement at that time because I'm flipping out because I'm over the bed. And seeing my husband, I turned my head, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to hit the bedpost with my head. But they somehow got me through it. And then we're heading for the window, and I'm telling them, you're going to kill me. That is a closed lock window, guys. You've got to open the window, basically, here, if you're going to take me. And then I realized I was being taken.
Let's pause there for a second. So you already knew prior to even reaching the matter of the window, the solid window, that they were going to try to bring you through it, which is interesting, as if, there might have been probably was previous abductions, because why would you assume that they were going to take you through that? You would most normally think that, well, that window's got to open before I get to it, or they're going to open it or something, before I get to it.
And I'm telling them this.
I'm going to get to that.
Yeah, I'm aware they are taking me to that window, and they're going to put me through that window. And come hell or high water, they're going to get me outside and take me wherever. And that is exactly what happened.
Yeah. And do you recall moving through the matter of the
Yeah.
closed window and the sensation? Do you remember a sensation with that?
Well, it was like being pulled through, but not, I mean, obviously I went right through it, but it felt like being stretched and there was a little, what do you call it? I won't say vibration, but more like a shock, sort of, how could I explain it? Sort of like a shock to the body, like an electric shock as you're going through. It didn't feel like Jello. I think I've heard that before, and no, it doesn't feel like Jello when I'm put through the window. But that was very shocking, and I think I passed out at some point before they even got me through it.
Yeah, that's normally what happens is you pass out or you lose conscious. The stream of your awareness seems to cease as you're being taken to the craft. There's
Yeah.
rarely an occasion where an abductee remembers or has a continuous awareness of moving from the room, out the house, and into the craft. Sometimes there is. On the odd occasion, they will remember and be able to report, there was a hole, there was a sort of, aperture, where they brought me through. But most often you don't remember that part of the journey. And I always
In my
find that
case,
really
it was the light beam. It was like an elevator going up, and there were others in the light beam.
What do you mean there were others in the
There
light
were others.
beam?
There were 2 other humans in there that I believe were human, along with the 2 Greys and me as we were going up. And I could see the aperture, the opening of the craft,
Oh.
and the craft was dark against the night sky. It's like it wasn't there, but it was there. And then it opened, and it was a circular opening door, and we went right up, and it shortened as it went up. So I have to describe it as like an elevator, this beam of yellow white light.
And you saw what seemed like other humans in the beam,
In the beam,
riding up with you.
at least 2 other beings. And not only
Like
that,
ahead of you, behind you, or?
they were, where was I in the picture? I drew this, but I didn't send it to you because it was such a terrible drawing. It was me in the beam with 1 Zeta Grey by my heel, 1 Zeta Grey up here by my shoulder. And then below me, there was another person. There was a man at least, and another Zeta Grey, 2 Zeta Greys by that person. So I do not know where they got him, why he was in the beam along with me, but that's what that was. And you could smell the Pacific Ocean. That was very interesting. I was absolutely amazed.
Were you close to the Pacific Ocean, or
Yeah,
could you normally outside your house smell the Pacific Ocean, or why was it interesting then? Because if you ordinarily smell the Pacific Ocean when outdoors,
to me, being in that light beam, I didn't know what to expect, of course, but smelling the Pacific Ocean just seemed like a strange thing. It seemed like if you're on a light beam, you wouldn't be able to smell anything, that they would have this way of not just making you, so you couldn't move, but so you couldn't smell anything either.
Right.
So
So
it was just a surprise to me.
Yeah. So the beam, in addition to everything else, it seemed to convey that you were housed in something, that you were isolated from the world outside of you, or it felt that way. And the fact that you smelled the seawater of the ocean kind of contradicted that initial perception. Okay, so now then you lose awareness, as is typical, and then you regain awareness, I suppose, on the table.
Yep, on the table.
Okay, give us you open your eyes, you're on the table. What do you see? What's everything that you notice in that initial, give us everything in that first initial moment.
In that initial moment, I'm laying on the table. This is a pie-shaped room. No other way to describe it. It's basically just a wedge.
Circular, or just half of a circle, or a pie piece?
Pie piece. There you go. Well, it's a pie piece. So the table is here. The point of the pie piece is back here. I'm my bed table is here. There's an indentation in the table. I can feel it, and basically human sized indentation for your back and your butt. And I'm not clothed and
At all,
no,
completely naked. Okay,
completely.
'cause sometimes you're
And I'm
partially.
cold. It's
Yeah.
cold. And I'm the kind of person that wears socks to bed, or I have these really nice soft footies, and they're not on my feet. And that's a long story too, or a different story. But the being, I'm looking past my feet, and there's nothing but this point of the room, and there's like a little shelf over there coming out of the wall, and I'm looking, and I don't see anyone to the left, but to the right there's this being, tall being, and then I'm either turned over or something's pushed into my back, and I have a scar back here from being worked on back here, from having problems back here since then. And it's about that big, if you can see that. I go back a little bit.
Do we have a picture of that?
Just,
Are we having
no,
problems
I
with
didn't send that one.
accessing the? Oh, you didn't send that one.
I didn't
Okay.
send that one.
It's
a big scar, but they had to remove a good 3-inch section.
So before we get to whatever table procedures you remember, so you looked around and you saw that there was a little shelf and your clothes were laid on the. How were the clothes laid on the shelf?
Did they have your clothes just on there?
They were just thrown
right there. Yep.
Thrown on there.
Yep.
Haphazardly.
Haphazardly. I'm not even sure if they were mine. I mean, I'm assuming they were mine. But right. So anyway, I get. Oh my God, this being is tall, and I mean, I'm on a table, and I understand any doctor moving over you is going to be taller than you, but this was really tall, and these eyes are just, looking down, and I've got the jab in my back, and I can't remember if they did something to my arm, but I can't remember if it's that table that I was locked down to, or it was the next table. But I got moved on that first one, that abduction, 1 or 2, 3 times, maybe to two other different tables for two other different experiments.
What do you remember from the first table? Did you encounter the tall gray at the first table?
I think that was the tall gray, but I also remember, that in the second room, something whooshed by really quickly. And it was,
Is that a picture of the gray you're describing?
All gray. That is what Linda and I discussed. That's a progenitor gray, is how she calls it. They're very, very old. They're the original beings that bred this, that, and the other. So yes, that's pretty much what he looks like. And no hair.
Looks like he's got a little bulge in the crotch area. Is that?
I think the artist might have done that. I only asked for the.
I don't know why I honed in on that before.
Belt. Yeah, the belt and everything. But I got distinct impression that this was a male, without a doubt in my mind. And then when the thought transference started coming through, it was very much so an arrogant type male entity. The boss of the craft, or possibly a leader on the craft, maybe not the boss, but he was definitely behind the scenes.
And this thought transference occurred at the first table you were at, or just so we're...
No, it actually didn't happen till a little bit later. Probably might have been another abduction that actually happened in, but he was very...
But you saw him at the first table.
Yeah, I saw him at the first. Yeah.
Is the clothing accurate?
Yeah.
Was he in a one-piece purplish suit with a belt and
right? It's dark blue, kind of silvery in the light of the craft, and the belt was sort of a light purple. It could have been blue, but it had these, and you can't see it in the picture on the computer here, but there are markings going down that sash, if you would, from the shoulder on down. And then there's a square thing on the belt in the front, and then it's got these raised dots on it And I didn't know if it was something mechanical, but he did have a pocket in that thing, and there was a rod in there.
Really? That's the little implement that I see in the belt, but but
Yeah,
that's actually not in the belt. It's in a pocket.
right. Yes.
And the
And
implement looked like that. It was a little sort of
yeah, it's like a 6
like,
inch long. I would call it a pen, but it has a bulbous end at the end of it. It's not huge, but a bulbous end at it. And then he's actually used that threateningly at me a couple of times.
mhm.
And he's touched that to my head a few times.
And the belt that goes up around the shoulder. Now that's also accurate. And was there
Yeah.
some kind of hieroglyphics like we
Yeah.
see in
So,
pictures
like,
on the belt?
and it's hard to explain, but I would say hieroglyphics is the closest thing to it, whether it's
Mhm.
some sort of lettering that they use for determining who they are, or if it's
Yeah, I
some
wonder.
insignia maybe,
Right,
or a group they belong to, or military. I don't know.
right. I wonder. Um, and so you really don't remember any procedure at the first table. Do you think that your awareness is limited as to what happened at that first table? Were you in and out?
Yes.
Or you
Yeah.
think that something happened at that table, but you don't remember
Yeah. Yeah. It's just
what
the
happened?
initial stuff. Getting I know that there was something. I didn't get anything put up my nose. That much I'm pretty sure of. But I know that there was something put near my eye, or in my back of my eye and through my head, not in my ears, but somewhere in here, because it hurt like heck the next day. I had major headache, and eye problems. And well, anyway, that's later. But yes, that, I don't know if it was that rod, but it might have been that rod. But they
Mhm.
touched me with something there, and that, yeah, that started that. And they, I don't know. I'm going to say it's an implant, but I'm not positive because of
Mhm.
the things that have happened. They would have to be keeping track of me.
Now, do you feel like at this point in the abduction that you now we hear from abductees, not all abductees say this, interestingly, but some abductees say, by the time I was in the craft, something had happened as far as my state of consciousness and memories opened up. All of a sudden, I remembered the beings, I remembered past abductions. Some people who are initially horrified by the beings calm down once they get into this altered state and they, oh, these guys, I remember these guys kind of feeling. Did anything shift in terms of your awareness or memory or anything that did anything seem familiar at that point? Like, you had no sense that you had been through this before?
No,
No. Wow.
no. And that is very odd, because having the experiences I've had as a kid,
Hmm.
I would have had to, I'm sure I would have had to have been taken then, but I don't remember anything specific about being on one of those tables. So for
Hmm.
me, the Diamond Bar encounter was the first time, but things opened up later past that experience when we moved to Colorado into the other house. We've moved again since then now, but in that house, when things started happening again, and a lot of strange things were happening, then it was more things were opening up. More things were opening up in my past.
Hmm.
But nothing on the craft. The only experiments, being scared, being terrified out of my wits, being locked down on one table, being not locked down on another table, being injected or stabbed in the back would probably be better, and poked in the eye. Um, that drawing was later.
Yeah, this was a later experience that I want to get to because that's really interesting. I've never heard anyone describe that kind of apparatus, whatever that is. Let's move to the second table of what you moved from the first table to a second table. Do you remember anything at all from that?
Right. On the second table, it was a different room. I think it was probably still a pie-shaped room. There was another ledge. There was a small alcove to the left, I think that's where the little Zeta Grey was staying right there. But in this room, I was waiting for something.
Hey, Kay, hold on just 1 second.
Okay.
My camera is not working, so I'm gonna roll out and try to get back in. It's been giving me hassles, and I just touched a cord, and it's like out. So
I thought you just transformed there for a minute.
all right, thank you. I'll be right back.
Okay. Sorry, I had to say something to lighten the mood. So yeah, the second table. And the being that shot by me really quickly did something and shot right out of the room. This was a cloaked being. This was not tall gray.
This was not the tall gray.
No.
So now, okay, now when you say shot by you, how fast are we talking about? He ran in, did something, and then ran out, or was it like an unnatural speed, like
It
to
was
the
an
point where you
unnatural
couldn't
speed.
even? It was
Yeah.
an unnatural
It was
speed,
unnatural.
like you couldn't even get a look at him.
It was a
before
blur. It was just blur. A big brownish, well, I'd say dark green brown.
Yeah.
In, did whatever, and out. And I'm going in and out, in and out.
And you just saw green. It
had to have been cloak. Again, cloak. Here we go again with the cloaks. Completely draped, maybe would be a better way to put it, but just in, did what it did, and out. I think that
Did you feel what it did? Did you feel something on your back, or?
Yeah, I think that they took blood out of me, maybe something else, I don't know, because again, the back thing. But then the little gray came over and draped something on me. Some sort of cloth. I mean, I was freezing. Those tables are cold, the rooms are cold, the craft is cold. They like it cold. But
he knew that you were uncomfortably cold, and presumably that's why he draped you in the thing.
I think the tall gray told him, basically, told it, put something on her.
That's interesting. I think that's the first time I've heard that about you being blanketed due to the cold. So as far as the green being again, who flashed in real quick and out again, you just saw green. You didn't see anything about the being, like you didn't see.
Just the height. So it was shorter than the tall gray, but taller than the small Zeta Greys, the robotic ones.
So it might have been something.
5 feet.
Yeah. Okay. And then what? So he comes in, he does that. He rushes out real quick. And then you're cold. Are you saying anything about you? Are you saying stuff to them at this point? Are you voicing anything or thinking anything? Or what's your thoughts throughout this?
I'm screaming in my head. I'm going, this can't be happening. What is going on? Why do you have me here? What are you doing? You can't be doing this. But nothing's coming out of my mouth.
You're trying to actually vocalize these thoughts, but you can't.
Right. Yep. And then I can't remember if it was that particular instance or a later instance, but I do many times later hear, basically K, calm, this is necessary. That telepathic transmission, or I call it thought transference, is from the tall gray.
And that happened many times in that abduction.
Yeah.
That was something that it was routinely saying, K, calm. It wasn't be calm, or it was just.
Right. It's just basically K, calm. This is necessary. This has to be done. Very cryptic, very short, but basically just telling me to, hang there. It's going to happen whether you like it or not.
Did that have any assuaging effect to it? Did you feel a little bit like more relaxed after it told you that, or did that have no effect whatsoever?
Well, I'm kind of a fighter. So when it came to this really strange stuff, I'd sit there and I'd be upset and angry. I mean, there's really no other way to be when you're in that situation. You don't know what's going on. You're scared to death. And anybody telling you to calm down, you're gonna, even if you can't speak, you're thinking, no, 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 no. I can't be
Yeah.
calm. This is ridiculous.
Right.
You can't do this to me.
All right. I am back. I just wanted to take a second there because I've been having some troubles. But Kay, tell me a little bit about the room. What did the room look like?
Pie shaped, basically wedge shaped. And
The shape.
everything is smooth. Everything is, there's no nuts, there's no bolts. I come from a family who did a lot of house building, and my dad was an electrical engineer and worked at White Sands and all that. So you don't see light bulbs around you that say LED or GE or Philips or anything like that. Everything is inside the wall. The light comes from inside the wall. There's no exterior lighting, no nuts, no bolts, no rivets, no beams. Everything is very smooth on the inside. No jagged edges, nothing like that. So yeah, pie shaped. Pie shaped.
What was the color of the surfaces?
Everything, the floor, metallic looking, dark gray, almost black, had sort of a weave pattern to it, and that's hard to explain with a metal. But yeah, it looked like a basket weave, but really smooth, and then it had these little bubbles.
Thin fibers or thick? What was the gauge of the fibers in the weave? Metal. Thin. That's interesting.
Very dark. Now the walls were different though, because of the lighting in the walls. It was almost like an ethereal type light that was in there, and whether it was something that was yellowish, maybe a little amber, but it seemed to change. And when, like in instances with the tall gray in the one part of the craft, his material for his suit can change color and shimmer and stuff like that. Now the Zeta Greys seem to wear really dark blue or black, and that changes with that color, that lighting in the rooms as well. So it can be kind of silver, it can be a little bit lighter blue, but they wear the dark color, I think, so that they're not seen in the middle of the night when they're taking people.
Right. So everything's smooth in the room. There's no.
Yes.
This sounds a lot like how Bob Lazar described the inside of the scout craft or whatever he called it, which I think we have a clip of if we're not wrong. Todd, do we have that Bob Lazar clip? It's like a minute-long clip where he describes the inside of the craft, and it seems identical to what you're describing. I sent it to you. Should be in our conversation somewhere. But he describes the exact same thing. I think what he says, if I'm not wrong, is, and maybe you can corroborate this or not, that it was if everything in the room was wax, and then it was heated slightly to where everything kind of had a rounded, there was no sharp edges or anything. Did you notice any sharp edges, or did everything?
No sharp edges. And the doorways to these rooms later on, no sharp edges on those either. I mean, you had the door goes up into the main part of the craft, the upper part, whatever. And the Zeta Greys just kind of stick their hand there, the finger there, and it just goes up.
Oh, here's that Bob Lazar clip. We can watch real quick. So I don't think I heard any audio on my end. I don't know, Todd, if you're hearing audio or not. Kay, did you hear any audio?
No, I didn't.
We didn't get the audio, unfortunately. Sorry about that.
It's not giving the audio. What the heck?
I think we had this the last time we tried to bring up something from Facebook or whatever this. Oh, no, this is Instagram.
Let me.
Oh, well, it's muted. Yeah, it's muted down there.
I just muted it.
Oh.
Because you're not hearing it. So let me redo it quick.
But it was essentially what you were saying. Yeah, everything. He described the color as a kind of pewter, which I don't even know exactly what color.
Well, pewter is a dark grayish brown, so that could be.
Okay. Yeah.
It could be. And being in a groggy state and looking at the floor of a strange craft.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dark gray, maybe pewter.
Yeah. Yeah, and he said it also had an ominous feel to it, if I remember right. That it just felt ominous, just felt like you shouldn't be there, this shouldn't be. But well, we'll continue on, and if Todd can get this working, we'll pause briefly and watch that. So at the second table, there's the green cloaked being that flies in and out. There's the small Zeta Grey who puts a blanket on top of you. And then, do you remember anything else from that point?
I think that's when I heard the tall gray saying something about this was necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this was necessary. And then
Say that again, Kay. You cut out when you said that last time.
So basically, the thought transference came through Kay, calm and all that. This is necessary. Mm-hmm. And then I think I was either moved to a third room, probably not on that particular abduction, but the Zeta Grey gave me my clothes, and that's when I noticed my socks were missing.
So the third room, you think was a different abduction?
I think that was a different abduction.
Okay. Yeah. So you think after the second table of this abduction, they brought you back, and then you noticed, what did you notice about your clothes?
So I had everything as far as my pajamas that I was wearing, which was a nightgown, but my little soft pink or purple socks were missing. And I don't know if other people have experienced missing items.
Yes, it's something that is a weird commonality, and I think that it's intentional. I think that it's some people like John Carpenter, MUFON's head of abduction research, always felt that it's just because they're capable of making flaws, and they make mistakes, and they're clothing you, and then they forget the socks, and that's why that happens. They're not perfect, and you're not really dealing with, in his opinion, the real intelligence. You're dealing with these robotic things who are doing all that, and so they're imperfect. I disagree with that. I think that it seems to be the case with many abductees that it's that missing sock or that missing piece of jewelry, or their pajamas were on inside out or backwards, that gave them the feeling that something indeed did happen. And otherwise, they would have just relegated it to the realm of dreams. They wouldn't have been convinced that something physical had happened to them if it weren't for that quote unquote mistake. And I think maybe these beings aren't like this, but I think that some of them, for whatever reason, and maybe it's for their own selfish reasons, want you to put together the experience at some point. They want you to realize that you're abducted, maybe get a regression and uncover the experience, because you have trauma, you have repressed memories, and you need to heal that at some point. It does seem to be the case in some abductions that the beings do seem to have some concern for your well-being, but that may be because you're a commodity to them and they want you to be healthy functioning. They don't want you to be bogged down by traumatic memories. And so they have this sort of plan set up where we don't want her to know anything right now, but we want her to eventually, piece this together at a point in time when she's mature enough and has incorporated maybe enough information to understand, the nature of this. Do we have it?
They have an agenda. And these beings are not benign. These beings are not here to play
That's
kumbaya.
that's your firm contention.
Yeah.
And they may not be. They honestly sound a lot like the type of Greys that abducted Karen Wilkinson. They issued threats at some point to you, which maybe we can get into at some point, which is, you don't hear that often, but from some people you do hear this, that they actually threatened you, this will happen, if you do this, and it's usually something bad. We couldn't get it, Todd. It's not working.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't want to hold up too much longer. Let me see.
I thought you were about ready to try it again. There's still no audio. Oh, well, that's okay.
Can you hear it?
No.
Okay.
Anyway, that's okay. Oh, well. I pretty much described it to a T anyway. So when you notice that your socks are missing, you're back at the house. You're back in bed. And, okay, so when you initially are back in bed, now do you remember the return? Do you remember being brought down on a beam, or do you have no memory of that? Yeah,
no,
most abductees never remember the return. Hardly ever. Remembering the return is really rare. It's even rarer than remembering the ascent into the craft and through the aperture. And I sometimes wonder if they don't want you to remember the return because that's when they do the mistakes. They, leave your socks off, or they, do whatever it is, leave the clue, the breadcrumb clue, which I think it could be in some cases.
Could be.
And maybe that's why. So they are, I think, because there's so much consistency with which parts the abductee will remember and which parts they don't remember. There seems to be some design here, I think, like why everyone, doesn't remember the return, or like 90+% of people don't remember the return. That can't be just random as far as your memories of which parts you remember and which parts you don't remember.
Well, and so they have the ability to take your memory. They have the ability to manipulate your mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So you're back in bed, and and did you have any doubt at all? Like, were you confused for a moment, like as to, was that real or not? Was that a dream? Or were you completely convinced that actually did happen? Or what was that moment like when you're back?
I was freaking out. I was crying. I was just sobbing and going, oh my God, what the fuck just happened? Okay, I said it.
That's fine.
When I got out of bed, I looked at the clock. It was 2-something in the morning, and it was like 11:30 something at night when I went to bed, or initially. Well, that's in the book. But yeah, I was freaking out and crying, and basically got my butt downstairs. Tried to.
Did your husband wake up?
Myself with the cats, and I ended up going outside and sitting down, and man, if anybody had offered me a cigarette that day, I would have taken it. I was completely shaken, and I was shaking outside. I went outside in the cold California morning on the back porch with this great big lattice overhang, and my horse's feed was out there. And I went in, a pot of coffee. I ignored my cats completely, which was wrong, but I did it. I opened the 2 wings on the back patio door, came out. I had to open the can of my horse's senior so I could smell it to bring myself back to reality after a while. The coffee and the senior it helped. But I sat there and I pondered the whole thing, and I went through this little checklist in my mind. What just happened? Okay, this was the dream that happened before. This is what happened. Like I told you, the pot, the water boiling, hands reaching for me, all that. And then going through this step by step. What was that light? Checking off the box. Wasn't any light that we ever knew of. It wasn't police. It wasn't an earthquake. What was that thing at the end of my feet and the one next to my head? And I just bawled and bawled and bawled. And then when I came to the conclusion, just checking off the boxes, going, oh my God, I was actually taken. Holy crap. And then
So you had to relearn that. You had to kind of rediscover, oh, I was taken. I definitely was. So there was a moment where, what did the memories fade out as soon as you came to? How was this? What was the situation like with the memory? Did you have to like re-trigger the memory in the moments afterward whilst thinking about it, or because if you would have had still the memories, you would have
I had the memory very clearly in my head of what happened in the bedroom. There was no doubt in my mind of what I was witnessing. Why I was witnessing was where I was doubtful. Oh my God, have I lost my mind, gone crazy? Every person who's been abducted is going to think that. And no, you're not crazy. I'm here to tell you that. This stuff happens, and it happens a lot, and it happens more. And Linda and I have discussed this more and more to people who don't understand what's happened. Don't count it as a dream. If you've got marks on your body when you wake up, it's not a dream. Anyway, I digress there. But okay. I had no problem remembering that, remembering the beam, remembering going up. It was.
But you forgot again, but you did forget for a time what happened on the craft. You had just remembered.
Right. And I started writing things down. I got very good at drawing. Well, not good drawings, but chicken scratch, but drawings to depict it all. And I did that, and I used my phone, and I didn't speak into it, but I did write notes in my phone for almost every single thing that's happened to me. And paper. I've used paper too, because and really the shocking thing was, after all of that and going through that and thinking, oh my God, what now? What happens now? And then when we moved to Colorado, I didn't expect anything. Figured everything was great. We're a new house. And then March came along of 2019. And then that incident where I was in the basement, if you want to talk about that one, we don't have to.
But before we get, we can get to that one. Before we get to the, what did your husband say? And he didn't wake up, like when you woke up, when you were put back in bed and you were freaking out, he was still in suspended animation and didn't wake up, like he
was still asleep. He didn't get up until he had to get up to go to the new job in the morning to take a shower and all that. And I was sitting at the table, and I had coffee, because I did make a pot of coffee, and I was finally inside. The cats, I had fed the cats, and I'm sitting there, I'm still shaking, and I'm thinking, do I tell him? Do I not tell him? Oh my God, if I tell him, he's going to think I'm fucking nuts and send me away to people in white coats, or worse. And I battled with it for a while. I was really worried that if I don't tell him and something happens with me and he doesn't understand why it's happening with me, then that's not fair to him. So I thought, okay, I'll tell him. So when he finally came downstairs, he was dressed, ready for the new job. I told him, I said, I got abducted. This is what happened. And basically he told me, it was just an intense dream. And I'm sure my face just went, okay, fine. My own husband doesn't believe me. And then he left, and I never spoke of it again until things started happening in Colorado.
Did you say anything to anyone else? Did you have kids then?
So
did you tell
my kids are older, and they've got their own lives, and I didn't bother anybody with this. I had very few friends at the ranch, acquaintances at the ranch where I had my horses. We were only in Diamond Bar for 18 months. It was just for my husband's job, and then we got back to Colorado. But that's Los Angeles, and it's just not my cup of tea down there, so to speak. I'm from the Midwest. But yeah, I think I had a conversation in Diamond Bar at a cafe that we used to go to with two writers, married couple, George and Diana, and they were nice. And I ended up bringing up some conversation of, well, how do you know this is true? How can you believe this, or how can you believe that? How do you sift through the crumbs? What's real, what's not real? So we got into that during this coffee session. And her husband, she shut down completely, and I don't know why, but he kind of looked at me from across the table, and he had his coffee, and made a little splash of coffee when he told me this, but basically that he knew about the LA saucer way back when that happened. His parents were there and they remember the blackout and all of that. And I was...
What was that? Maybe the Battle of Los
That
Angeles?
was the Battle of Los Angeles. And he was telling me he had been a cop in the area for a long, long time, and that basically he believed that I was abducted. He believed me. And I said, okay, but because I started the conversation like, what would you do if you found these intruders in your house? And he's looking at me like going, what kind of intruders? Small, big heads, big black eyes, 4 fingers, thin, spindly bodies, kind of longish arms, and weird looking, not normal, not earthlings type. And that's how we got into that conversation. But yeah, he did say that his parents, the Battle of Los Angeles was real, and there was a whole bunch of stuff that happened during that.
Yeah, there had to be something. I mean, I think there was several thousands of rounds of ammunition fired that day. It's something, and nothing came down. Before we get on to the next relevant experience, so did you believe in aliens at all? Did you have any conception of the possibility of aliens prior to that abduction event?
Well, I always believed that we weren't alone. I don't know how. I don't know why. But I walked around as a kid in school looking up at the stars all the time. I actually spent a lot of time walking out at like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning of our house in San Jose, California, just going for a walk in the middle of the dark in San Jose, California, not telling anybody, just going out and doing it. And I don't remember much more than just always doing that, but always looking up at the stars. And my dad working for White Sands, and I met my husband actually at high school in San Jose, and we were in a extracurricular class where we showed kids around the planetarium that we had, because they had a planetarium. And then we had this classroom where we had pictures, NASA pictures, the moon, Mars, Venus, Saturn, all these wonderful pictures that NASA had. And we explained the planets and the rotation, the orbit, all of that stuff through kids that would come through. And that's how we met. And then, of course, astronomy. Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you went through a kind of ontological shock then in the days after that. What's that?
Yeah.
And so does this match up with your experience? So the trauma of being an abductee is that you, first of all, you have to accept that this is real, that this all of a sudden, something that you shouldn't be is, and there's that sort of dimension of it. Then there's the feeling that it can happen at any time. That's part of the sort of paranoia and anxiety of being an abductee. You're always under the ever-present feeling that this could happen again. It could happen tonight. I could be taken again. And so there's that sort of dynamic of it. Yeah. And then there's the you can't tell anybody. You can't talk to anybody about it, and there's the isolation. Yeah. And so there's 3 different kind of traumas with the abduction experience, and I think you have had each one, right?
Yeah, I couldn't tell my family. My daughters, we have more relationship anyway, so they don't know. My son, works for the National Guard, and I didn't want to bother him with this stuff, so he doesn't really know. My husband knows, to a point. He knows that the book is out. He hasn't read it, but that's okay. I mean, everybody comes to an acceptance of this at some point, somehow. I mean, there's people out there who look at these objects in the sky and think this is amazing and this is wonderful. And I'm sitting here going, this isn't so amazing and this isn't so wonderful. I am very suspicious, very skeptical. And
it interferes with your life,
Oh, absolutely.
And you're feeling, anxiety and depression, and it's affecting your happiness, even when it's not going on.
and grandchildren. So if you have grandchildren, which we do, and all of a sudden you find out that one of them's not sleeping well, and I can't say anything to the other grandparents that are raising these 5 children of our daughter who we have no relationship with. You worry because you go, okay, well, what if she's going through this? What if this is happening? How do I tell them? Now they know about the book. My granddaughter has the book. I don't know if she'll ever read it, but she wanted to have the book because I wrote it, which is fine. But I wondered, is she being taken? Because this stuff happens in families. I have no idea if my mother had ever been taken or my mother's mother, because everybody's gone. And by the time I got to talk to my mother about this, the dementia was getting full blown on her, and she never got to read Colonel Corso's book, which I thought was great. A great start to get her to, because she asked me, she goes, is this true? Did this really happen to you? I've always been interested in this. And then we never got any further. So if you have family, tell them. And if they say, they look like they're not ready, then don't tell them. Just don't tell them.
Yeah, I think that's how you have to do it. Yeah, I don't think that we should be telling I think that we need to be very selective in who we tell and not tell. And abductees normally, compared to people that have mental illnesses and different psychopathologies, abductees know who to tell and not to tell. People who have delusions aren't like that and tell everyone indiscriminately. Tell the exact people you shouldn't tell, and that's always something that John Mack felt really legitimized the abductees, that they're clearly of sound mind and know who to tell, who to talk to and not to talk to.
Right.
Anyway, let's move on to the next relevant experience. Is it in Colorado, I guess, once you move into the house in Colorado?
Pick one. I'm just oh god.
Colorado one.
So
good one.
Many. And of course all the rest are in Colorado. So
okay.
I can tell you one that was recent that is not in that book, that's going to be in the upcoming book. I'm working with a physicist at Stanford. Well, actually, he's getting his degree in physics, yeah. And he's a really nice guy. And he saw me on one of the other podcasts. I can't remember, it was Linda's or Mr. Greys. I can't remember. One of them. I've been on like 4 or 5 now. But he messaged me, I saw you, I want to talk to you. Can we do a Zoom call? I'm like, okay, cool. So we did a Zoom call, and he had information that blew me away because he knew more than what I've already suspected. So I may be compiling that into this next book very carefully. But he's working on a piece of the UFO that Linda Moulton Howe had this piece.
Oh, okay.
Way back when. And they've got it, and they're working on different ways to test it. So I thought that was really cool. But he figures prominently right now with me because he has information that I don't, and we can kind of talk back and forth about this. And
what did he feel he was able to get from you that he needed to know?
He needed to know. He was intrigued by the dreams that I've had that are in the book, the recurring dreams, and the dimensions of, okay, it's like this at first, and then it kind of gets intensified here and a little more intensified on the next one and more intensified on the next one. And the gray pops up and the ships are in the air. And I have those, I don't know if I sent you those pictures or not, but in the book, I have the recurring dreams. I have the ships. I had an illustrator do the ships for me. We put them in the book. There's all these different crafts that come out of a big crack in the sky. No other way to explain it, or opening. And basically this one over Kansas City is just crazy. And there's a barrage of fire from different crafts. And there's crafts here that I've never really seen with my own eyes, but they're in the stream. A big square craft that can fire off of each end. It has multiple white lights all the way around it. The thing's square. It's as big as a Walmart, maybe bigger. That's the invading force in these dreams. the big invading force, and all the other crafts, the saucers, the diamonds, the triangles, are fighting against it. And we, the people, are down below. Everything's raining down upon us. Everything's turning to hell and chaos, basically. But we
That's
talk
interesting.
about that.
So the force that all the various different craft are fighting against is rectangular, or is it
Square.
cube? It's square. Yeah,
Flat.
that's
Flat.
interesting.
Square, lights all around it, and these four weird ends. They look like they've got some kind of conical thing on each corner. And out of these comes this really heavy red laser, best way to describe it, I guess. Multiple shots come out of it and destroy a lot. But again, these are recurring dreams. I don't want to freak people out. They're in the book. Doesn't mean it'll happen. But the fact that they're recurring dreams led me to put it in the book.
I'll just say real quick on that, that to me, it signals to mind the notion of the AI. I don't know if you've ever gotten wind of this from experiencers, but there's some lore about a rogue AI that is existent somewhere and is in the solar system and has infected essentially certain races. Namely, people say the reptilians they're the way they are because they're infected by this rogue AI. And some people have, for some reason, drawn a connection between this AI and black cubes, and particularly I don't know what the monument or structure is in the Middle East that they revere for whatever reason and circle around. The Islamic community in that area reveres this black cube structure. And there's some kind of information from someone or something that the AI is in there that has to do with some kind of sentient black goo. This really gets down into a rabbit hole, and it's inside that cube, and a cube has been symbolically associated with this AI. And so that's why I find interesting that you describe this, because that seems to be the problem that the extraterrestrials have, that they're dealing with, is this rogue AI that can't be stopped. It's very difficult, it's very advanced, and it can't be controlled. And so I have no idea, but that just reminded me of the
when Linda and I had our last conversation, which I think was in December, I had taken some pictures of what I had seen in the sky over where we used to live in Colorado. And she wanted me to talk right away, and we were going to do another segment. And she thought these pictures were amazing. And I said, I've got a friend on Facebook who has even more amazing pictures. But I said, these are weird. I go, they look like, I don't know if this is AI. Maybe it is. But I thought they look like plasmoid would be the best way for me to describe it, but they're not round. When I take the photo, they look like an egg that you're frying in a pan. Looks like that. It's got that kind of thin, lacy edge on it, around it. I think I sent you some of the pictures, but we talked about that in great detail. And I said, I get the feeling, because they're there and we're taking pictures, and I'm not the only one, and we're taking videos and they're moving around, that this is some great energetic entity that doesn't need a source of energy. It replenishes itself. So it could be plasmoid, because I think they can do that, but it might just be some entity, but it could be something that's AI. And then I thought about the whole drone situation, thinking, well, maybe the drones are up there because they're trying to watch those things. There's lots of them up there. If they were in New Jersey and Washington and California and Wisconsin, Illinois, Texas, all over the place. I'm not the only one who's taking pictures of these. So maybe that's AI, and maybe drones are up there to help defend us against that. One can only hope, but you don't want AI to take over. Good Lord.
No, I know, and maybe we've got it all wrong with
Really.
the AI that we're afraid of, the LLM or the LLMs, AI. I don't think that's the real problematic AI. I think the real problematic AI has already been here, and we've been dealing with. But anyway, let's pivot to another experience. Maybe the one where the purple portal
Oh God,
opened in your
vortex.
bedroom.
Okay.
And there was this. Tell us that story. That seemed to
Okay,
be
that's the one with the forearm table in it. Yeah,
right.
I know that's bizarre. So, God, I can't remember what night it was, but I think it was 2023, if I'm thinking right. Possibly it was August, and go to bed, normal night, but I think I ended up having that high-pitched tone in my right ear, which I get before contact, before seeing something or before being taken. That's kind of my cue that something's going to happen. So it's a high-pitched tone. It's real short, maybe 3-4 seconds. This one went on and wavered, and I ignored it. And I went to bed anyway. And then I heard it again. And I think all I remember is sitting up in bed in a gray, being half in and half out of this purple vortex that's spinning around where our master bedroom window should be. And it's
So
got
purple light. So what's purple about the vortex?
the vortex is light. Okay, so
Yeah,
could
the
be
light.
light, but it's spinning. It's purple. It's blue. All kind of mixed violet together. Can see it spinning, and it's huge. And we had a 6-foot window, master bedroom window, and it pretty much took the whole thing up where that master bedroom window should have been. But it's the little gray guy, robotic guy, stepping out. He's half in it with like 1 foot in it, and the rest is out. He's trying to get me to go with him.
A little gray, one of the
Right.
small Zeta Greys.
Only one of them, right? And I'm going, no, I don't want to go. No, I don't want to go. I definitely don't want to go in there. But then I had to go. There was, you can't say no. I mean, you're going to go. So we went through, it was instantaneous. And I'm in this great big room, probably.
He took you through the purple portal, and it's instantaneous.
Yes,
Can you
right through.
describe anything about going through, and was there a sensation going through that portal?
Yeah, it was so quick. I mean, I didn't, and I know in the book I probably didn't write very much about it, but there was nothing more than sort of the electrical vibration type thing going on as you go through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nothing stunning, nothing shocking, just sort of vibrational and going through it. And then you're on the other side, wherever this other side was. Was I in another dimension? I don't know. Was I on a ship? I don't know. I was in a room. That was for certain. It was huge. It was white. And
did it resemble at all the craft that you were on before? Was there anything similar to it, or was it entirely different as far as?
It looked like the inside of a warehouse. It looked like the inside of a warehouse. Yeah. Oh, there's the pictures. Yeah. So there's the mantis being. There's the saucer. Okay. I had an illustrator do this for my book because my drawings were subpar. Diamond craft. And then the table, if you want to go back a little bit to the forearm table,
go up to the forearm table, Todd. Todd's having some issues with this camera, by the way, everyone.
That's okay. So that's the one I drew. This is not the one the illustrator did. But so the there he is. Little Zeta Grey led me to this big machine in this great big warehouse looking room that's totally white. And that's the best we could come up with as far as the drawing goes of what I described to him. Great big, huge.
So it's very big. It's taller than you.
Yeah. And then it had this wheel on it.
So just so you know, okay, I can hear you guys really well, but I can't see it. My camera's not working. So I can hear. Just let me know the pictures, and I'll be able to move into there.
Okay, great.
Cool.
So he's bringing. Is he floating you over? Are you floating out? Is he floating you over to it?
We are walking. We are.
Oh, you're actually
on that
walking.
floor. We're actually walking. It's walking, and I went and getting jerky movements with the little gray. puts me on that table. I'm somewhere in this picture with the blonde hair. And yes, I'm no clothes. And there's two other people on this apparatus. And it
Only two. So there was a table that was empty.
there was a table, I think, at the top here in this picture that's empty. So he puts me on it, and I'm clamped onto it, basically, legs and arms, you're clamped onto it.
Nothing is explained to you. He doesn't say,
nothing is explained. It's basically, you're going to do this. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
And I think I heard, I can't be certain, but I'm pretty sure the tall gray was part of this, that I was hearing something from him. But it was the mantis being at the controls of this thing, which were across 25 feet across the room, that I could see down through my toes to that green being right there.
And you knew they were the controls to this contraption.
Because there was nothing else there. The whole room was entirely white and vacant, except for this. Very bizarre.
Did you get a good look at the mantis being at this point in time?
No, his back was what I call a back, was hunched, and that's how I described it to the illustrator. I said, that's kind of what it looks like. And other than seeing those antenna and the eyes and the claw-looking hands, that's the only reason I thought that it was a mantis or mantoid type being. And then it was totally cloaked, had the hunched back. That's what was. So it didn't look like a gray. It didn't look like a small gray. It didn't look like a reptilian or any of those. So that's why I assume it's a mantis or mantoid or whatever you want to call it. But yeah.
Yeah, probably was. I mean, there is a lot of variety, but I think that it's a good chance that that's what it was. It's one of the beings that people refer to as the mantids that look that way, that look insect-like.
Right, insect-like.
Because they often wear cloaks like that, more often purple, but people have seen them in different colors. But anyway, so he's putting you on the table, the small gray.
Yep.
The tall gray has communicated. What did the tall gray communicate to you at this time? Or he's telepathically doing something?
Basically, it's the whole thing that, this has to be done.
Okay. The same K, calm, this is necessary. Kind
has to be done. We're going to do this. Just sit back and take it. So,
okay, so he straps you in. So you're actually strapped. You're physically strapped into it. There's not some kind of weird invisible mechanism that's sort of keeping you tethered. It's actual physical straps, which is interesting.
Yes, physical straps. And same with the other two people that were on there. There was a man, and I believe there was a girl. I'm not sure if she's a young girl, but there was a young woman on there too. And so.
Were they awake? Were they when you saw them?
Everybody's awake.
They're awake. Are they freaking out, screaming, or are they saying anything? Or
the old man was having a problem, especially when the machine turned on. So, and the weird part was when the machine turned on, it made this really high-pitched grr sound. I mean, like really high-pitched grr, just super high. So when it turns on,
was it disturbing? Was it kind of like an awful sound?
Yes, very disturbing.
Yeah.
And then when the thing goes around, it circles around, the tables also turn in 4 different positions.
So not only the big wheel is rotating, but the tables are also rotating.
Right. And I think that this was some sort of experiment to see what we could take. I honestly don't know why else this would happen. This was the most bizarre thing.
So it was so jarring that it makes you wonder whether that was the point. To really kind of, and the sound, maybe that was intentional,
Yeah. Well, the tables would turn and the whole thing would go around and we would all turn, and the one man was having issues. He sounded really awful, and I wished I could have helped him, but I couldn't. So we're all conscious.
What kind of issues was
around.
He sounded awful, as in
pain. He was in terrible pain. So when you and as the tables turn, so I can look as the table turns, it can turn me to where I can see back through the portal, and I can see our entire bedroom. That's why I thought this was some kind of maybe different dimension, and that portal was taking me into this other weird dimension with a white room. I know it doesn't make any sense. I've tried to wrap my head around this so many times. But the tables turn and it goes a little faster. It's almost like an astronaut program, but different, for them. I don't know.
Like an astronaut program designed to test G-forces on humans.
Maybe something like that. But so
how fast was it going? Did it really go fast?
fast? No, it wasn't extremely fast. It was just going around at a steady pace, and the tables would clank, 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 clank was the really loud bass sound. Clank, 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 and then that with that grrr with the machine on. It was awful. That was horrible to the head. But the heat that was coming off from turning or from it's like we were being barbecued alive on this thing. And I think that's how I described it.
Real intense heat.
Oh my God, yeah. And Linda and I discussed that too, because I sent her the picture of the illustration when I sent her the book and everything. And she said, "Did it feel like you were really getting hot?" I'm like, "My God, yeah, I was nauseous. I mean, it was awful." Then after this, however long this happened, it might have been only 5 minutes. In my mind, it felt like an hour. But then I got hooked up. They hooked up wires, thin, tiny white and copper wires to the back of my head on this same machine. And I had to go around again. And I don't know what the point of that was. But I have the mark back here from
the wires.
The wires when I woke up in the morning. Yeah.
From how many wires? And do you have a mark?
There were four. There were 2 white and two copper. And they were really, really thin. Like you would see what do you call it? I can't think of the name of it. Oh my God. The really thin lights wires, really thin.
Like almost like phone wires or something like.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So that was bizarre. But being able to see back through to the bedroom was sort of comforting, knowing that they kept the portal open and I get off the table and run
your bedroom. Yeah. Interesting. So yeah, I wonder if that was intended too, or if that, kind of contradicts, the feeling that they wanted you to be really uncomfortable. So the old man, he's screaming, or he's in a lot of pain, and that's presumably from the heat, do you think, or what pain do you think he was experiencing?
He didn't say, but it was just a lot of moaning and being very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And he was older. He had some gray hair on his head. And elsewhere, shouldn't say that. Everybody's naked on the dang table. So the girl, her hair, you could see it brown. It was kind of falling off to the side every time the table would turn. I think she was okay, but the old man was not doing well. And then when I get off the table, when I finally was released, I was so angry. And before that happened, their little machine came out of the left side of the table and locked my arm down and did something with something sharp. I don't know if it was a scalpel or a needle, but I had the marks from it. And it's this arm. I'm sorry, it was this arm. So it was on the right side. And the marks are right here.
We don't have that picture. I know we have some pictures.
I do have those pictures. I can send them to you. But I was so angry when I got off that thing. And the little gray guy is escorting me back through the vortex, but he doesn't go into the vortex. He's only escorting me to the beginning of it. And basically, I have to go through it on my own, which was fine with me. I wanted out of that room. But I hit it and I knocked it over.
You hit what? And knocked what over?
I knocked it over. I knocked the Zeta Grey right over. So they don't have a whole lot of stability. And then again, that's why I say they're part robotic. I mean, it's like hitting a punching bag almost, and so it went over.
Yeah. Sometimes that happens. Yeah. In the case of Linda Napolitano, she was able to toss a pillow from her bed at it, and it just took it right out, as if it was weightless. And I don't think you can tell in some cases of abductions, they're nervous because they know that mishaps, I think, can happen like that. I'm sure they didn't intend, for that to be possible, but but they are, I think, controlling you psionically, and I think it's imperfect, and
Yeah.
that's why I think sometimes, just to add to what I was saying before, when they do the paralysis, they have multiple beings, or
Right.
sometimes,
Right.
in the case of one abductee who was really skilled at being able to get out of the paralysis that she was in, they would bring in many beings into her room when they would do this and abduct her. And I think they were trying to amp up the output of their psionic influence. So I just wanted to hypothesize before we get past this story. I'm wondering if they're recording your emotions or your thought forms as you're going through this, and they're taking that. I know that can be done, or supposedly that can be done. Even the Black Ops, for some reason, finds it useful to do this. And I wonder if that's just one idea that I would throw out there, that maybe they were recording your emotions for use in something else.
Yeah, they're going to use me in the future.
Yeah. And so they took you right back out after that. They just took you back through the portal.
He was going to escort me out, and I knocked the little guy on his butt and walked through the portal and went back. And then when I got
what happened when you knocked the guy on his little butt? I mean, was there like a scene
that my arm, right? So it was just really, I was so angry. It just, boom, I hit him right in the chest and knocked the guy over. And it was like punching nothing almost.
Yeah.
You went right over.
And then they squeezed your arm. They kind of retaliated by squeezing your arm.
No, I did it because I was mad of what they did to my arm. I was mad because of hooking me up to wires. I was mad because I was on that flipping table. And that they had taken me to begin with. I mean, I just had enough. I've read that people can say, go away, go away, go away, and they'll go away. And I have tried. I have sat there and concentrated so hard to just make a fist. I did it one time and one time only, where I made a fist under the cover. My husband was in the bathroom. This was after that episode. And they tried to take me. I could feel, that was the other part, is they've upped their game with me. They don't take me physically that I know of now. They're taking me some other way. But it's like a feeling of breaking down into the smallest, tiniest atoms, particles, subparticles, whatever you want to call it, and then appearing on the craft, from going from physical form to something else, to breaking down, well, almost like something on Star Trek, if you can believe that, and then ending up on the ship. And that's how they would take me after those abductions, the initial ones, and that one vortex one. But I mean, it's the most bizarre thing. So I'm sitting there, my husband's in the bathroom, and I'm going, no, I hear the vibration, I hear the high pitched tone. I'm going, no, you're not taking me. In my head, I'm fighting it. I'm like, no, you're not taking me. You're not taking me. I'm trying to bunch up my right fist under the covers. So I was ready to fight. At that time, they didn't get me. My husband comes out of the bathroom. I'm sitting up on the bed, and I'm just like, I'm tired, but I'm also crying, and I'm also just looking at the wall with a blank stare, and he had to shake me awake. And then he went to work. I went back to sleep. And then again, that happened again. I hear the high-pitched tone in my right ear, and I'm trying to lay down. And then the whole thing starts in my head, where it's that vibration that starts, and it goes right down through my body. But this time they made it painful. So it felt like my limbs were being torn off.
The vibration, they made it, you feel like they deliberately made it painful. How was it painful? Like, does it start to like really, I know you used the word, it was like rocking me in one other part in the Experience podcast. So it's just because your muscles are sort of convulsing, or
well, and I don't know what's actually happening physically, but it feels like my arms are being torn off, my legs are being torn off, and I'm being ripped with a knife through my chest and my back. And like I'm going to explode. That's how bad the pain was. And
like,
then
you think you're going to die, like this is, you're in mortal danger.
Oh my God, yeah.
Horrible.
Torture, just torture. And I think they did that because I didn't want to go the first time. and they weren't going to take no for an answer.
So they're kind of prodding you with the pain, kind of like, do you think do you think they had conditioned you at all up to that point to kind of respond in a particular way to the pain?
I do.
Like when you felt the pain, did you feel like the feeling of surrender? Like, okay, all right, enough,
Yeah.
I'll do what you want,
Enough.
kind of feeling. Yeah.
I comply.
Yeah. Right. Well, we have 20 more minutes. Let's do one more experience. What about the reptilian experience? Would that be a good one to cover in 20 minutes? Is there more to that than just the encounter? Let's go into the reptilian experience.
So I think I was in the guest bedroom.
What's the leading up to that and everything?
So that was another high-pitched tone in the right ear going up the stairs, and I was going to go sleep in the main bedroom with my husband, but he was snoring, and I took my pillow, I went to the guest bedroom. But I had my glass of water from downstairs as I'm going upstairs, and I don't turn the lights on because I kind of know where everything is. And in the book, I explain the bed's over here, the window's over here. It's not that big of a room. Sliding door closet's right here. Doors right here, kind of angled. And all I have to do is go in and go around the bed. It's not even probably 10 feet. Go around by the window, set my glass down, and get into bed. And it's dark. I don't turn the lights on, and I'm going. And the windows closed, blinds are closed, the curtains are closed. There's no light coming in this room. I go past the closet. I make my left turn. I'm walking, not running, not tripping, nothing like that. Got my water. And I see this maybe 3 feet up on the wall. And my walls are dark purple in this room. At least this particular wall was an accent wall, dark purple. And about 3 feet up the wall, there's this shimmer on the wall. And I'm looking at it going, whoa, what is that? Because there's no light in the room. Where did that come from?
A shimmer that comes and goes or remains?
It's just a shimmer like you would see a heat wave on the road in the desert during a real hot day. You can look at the pavement and you see that strange heat wave. It's like that. That was what it was like. And so it was right there on the wall. And I was like, okay, I'm tired. This is crazy. I'm tired. And so I make my way around the bed thinking nothing of it. And I put my glass there, my earplugs in my ear, pull back the covers, get into bed, try to get cozy, end up turning a couple of times, feel that vibration starting in my head, and then starting to build.
Does it normally start in the head?
Yes. Yeah.
It always starts in the head.
Always starts in the head. And it starts to build. And then that's when I'm going, no, you're not taking me. No, you are not taking me. And then no sooner than that is in my head, this being is right there out of the window, grabs my arm, and basically
moves through the solid window, or comes through an open window, or just
through the solid window. Is right there. This is a kind of a cloaked looking reptilian being, yellow green, but yellow green eyes. And
immediately recognizable as
some sort of reptilian. I don't know how many there are.
That was palpable, and he suddenly just came in, and he's already reaching for you.
Yeah. Scratched.
How large?
Scratched my belly. Big.
Taller than you.
Tall? Yeah, I'm 5'9". So
I think we have a pic. I don't know if Todd is still.
Yeah, I have a picture of it that the illustrator did. That's a little darker looking than what it actually looked like. It was a little bit more green than that, but it had the cloak, and you couldn't see because it had that hood on it. It did have a hoodie.
It did have a hood.
This hood, but it had the neck with the scales on it, and it didn't have a big nose. It wasn't a snout.
No snout at all.
No snout, just a regular looking. Flat, kind of flat with a nose.
Yeah. And you said bumpy, I believe you described as bumpy.
Scaly, whatever you want to call it.
like a crocodile or an alligator, like
Yeah,
that kind of
alligator. Yeah,
bumpy,
yeah,
similar to
alligator,
that. Yeah, yeah.
just like that.
And he's kind of violent. The way that he grabs you, he's completely nonchalant, careless. He's actually physically scratching you. His
Right.
claws are that. What do you think he was
Yeah.
intentionally scratching you in order? Or do you think he was like, like some people when they roughhouse and grab you, they want to make it right. They want this to be an unpleasant experience. Do you think he wanted it to be an unpleasant experience, or do you think that it was just
I think he was doing a
he
job,
was
just
just
doing it
doing
in a
a job?
hurry. Yeah, he's the one who brought me to the ship that time.
Go to that one, Todd. That doesn't have much of a snout. Did he have a nose? Did he have a protruding
Yeah,
neck?
it wasn't like that. No, not that one. Kind of like this one, but the mouth was a little more. That's
Kind of,
close.
that's close.
That almost looks like a snake. But so the
Mhm,
nose wasn't quite as long, and it had a little bit more of a mouth on it, a little bit more of a chin. But the
mhm.
neck and the torso is almost perfect on that one, and the rest of the head in a hoodie.
Did it? So it had on a cloak. Was it open? Did you see the chest at all, or was it completely?
No, it
What?
happened so fast. All I could see was the hooded part and the neck and the eyes. And then, of course,
Describe the eyes. I think we have some close-up pictures of eyes, Todd,
yeah,
too, of the yellow
yeah.
eyes. Maybe not. Maybe not any. We might have to bring up the book. The book that we got these from. So the
So yeah,
eyes were they large? Were they?
so this picture that you were showing right there, those were pretty round. They were a little less round. They were more cat-like.
Mm-hmm,
So I don't know if that's a reptilian, a reptoid, or a different something
mm-hmm.
else, because I'm not that
Yeah.
familiar, obviously, with those. This is the only one that I have experienced, and it was rough. But again, I think it was just doing a job by grabbing me and getting me back to the craft. For whatever reason, they used that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if he's connected at all with the other ETs, or whether this is a different group or what. So what happens after he grabs you? He pulls
So,
you,
yeah, takes me, and
takes you
we're on
to
the
a
craft.
craft. Was there
Yeah,
a beam in this instance, or was
no,
there no beam?
no
No
beam,
beam.
no beam in the rest of
Huh.
these. The only time there was ever a beam was in the Diamond Bar incident. I
Oh,
will call it that because I don't know what else to call it.
yeah, right,
That was
right.
the only time.
Yeah.
Um,
How does he get you to the craft? Does he levitate you though,
yeah,
nonetheless, without a beam?
just
Huh.
we're gone, and then I'm the next thing I'm passing out, obviously, because this is so freaky. Um, I don't do well with freaky things, so
Mhm.
we're on the craft, and he's not there anymore, and I'm being escorted by Little Gray, and I'm being brought into a room. I don't think this was a pie-shaped room. I think this was a little more open room area.
Mhm.
But I'm on some sort of table, not a bed, but a table, and my legs, and I'm looking down at the dark weave floor. And there's a tall gray being. I'm going to say female, because I think probably female. And then there was a shorter looking little hybrid, gray human hybrid, with little tufts of like dark hair on it, and these
Mm.
big blue sapphire eyes. I mean, blue, but she was very pale. She wasn't very big. I mean, maybe 2, 3
Did she
years
look?
old.
And this is tall or short again? Sorry.
This one's short. She's short
This
because
one's
she's a
short.
little hybrid. But the reptilian's gone. He's gone. But the tall gray progenitor race here, this was a female, and it walked away for a minute, and this little thing is looking at me, this little gray human hybrid thing, girl, with these big, and into my head, I don't know how, but she's transmitting, uh, you nice, or you
Mhm.
pretty, that kind of thing.
She,
And I'm like,
and she was
whoa,
saying, "You nice, you
yeah,
pretty,"
right. And I'm
like
like,
not grammatically correct
right,
English.
right, no. And
Huh.
and again, it's just thought transference, like kind of like the tall gray does. Nothing from the other tall white lady, whatever, who went a few feet away, but I'm sure she was monitoring the situation. If the little girl didn't come to me, she didn't touch me or anything, but that's what I got from her. Now I've seen this little girl.
Describe
2 other
her.
times.
Sorry, say that
That's
again.
okay. I've seen her 2 other times at different ages.
Well, describe her in more detail. And Todd, I think we have some hybrid pick. If you want to go to our hybrid folder, maybe we can find a match. I don't know how many pictures we have of hybrids, but we have some. So typically how the hybrids are described is that, sometimes they look pretty much human, except for maybe the eyes are a lot bigger, and they have unkempt hair, stringy kind of hair, not enough hair to cover the scalp,
Right.
drab clothing.
Yes, a tattered white dress that looked like it hadn't been washed in ages.
That's funny that they wouldn't fit them in like a tight-fitting suit,
That's
like
what I thought too. Skinny legs,
Yeah.
knotty knees, short little thing, regular hands. The eyes are huge, very blue, and the skin coloring was, pale human, but it had a blue tint to it. And that's how
Yeah.
I kind of knew that had to be a hybrid. That wasn't just a human child running around. That had to be a hybrid. At least in the way the thought transference came in, I'm like, okay, what is this? And that was freaky.
Yeah, and I just wonder about the psychology, like what was her mental state when she was seeing you? She was saying you pretty, you nice. I wonder like what she was feeling or think. Was it authentic? Was it kind of, what was her vibe to you?
Kind of like that, but bigger
Kind of
eyes.
like that. Bigger eyes.
Eyes.
This is a Debbie Cobble drawing, I believe. Yeah. Kind of like that, huh?
A little less rounded head, more human looking head, bigger, rounder eyes, but the mouth, thin lips, tiny nose, thin neck, and very sparse brown hair.
Disproportionately sized head or like a human sized head?
Close to a human sized head.
Close,
whatever
but not.
They've done, they've got it down to a science to where they've got it to look more human on the head part. But there's still that light blue tint to the skin.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So could she pass for human? Would she be immediately recognized as strange and different, or
strange and different because of the tint of that skin?
Yeah. Because
of the skin. Very thin lips, and the very small nose, and those huge blue sapphire eyes. I mean, those were unmistakable.
And what was the feeling that you got when she communicated to you and said, "You nice, you pretty"? What did you feel?
I thought, this is exactly what I told you. This is a little hybrid being. And I didn't think anything of it. I mean,
analytical kind of, just identifying the thing.
Yeah, I'm just like, okay, I've seen lots of stuff. This is just.
You didn't give a response. You didn't give a response back to her at any point, or say anything, or think. Yeah. Nope. What about the other 2 occasions? So there's 3 occasions when.
Right. So. The other occasion, she's a little bit older, and I'm going to assume that this is her because pretty close looking with the tattered dress and all that. Yeah. But she's older. But this was, I don't know if this was actual contact or if this was a dream or if this was something they're putting in my head. But we are essentially floating over the gates of Peterson Air Force Base, or Peterson Space Force Base, it's known now. Colorado Springs, right down the road, and where my husband works now. But it's nighttime, and she's floating me. We're both floating over the security gate at the base on the north gate. I think it's the north gate. And we come down. She's barefoot, and I notice this, and I see the tint of her skin, and I didn't look fully on because she's ahead of me, and she's sort of walking, sort of skipping in front of me. We're going straight down the road. We're not on the sidewalk or anything. And
she's skipping playfully?
skipping playfully in front of me, walking, half skipping, come, basically I'm hearing in my head, come follow me. Okay, there's nobody around. I mean, there's no cars. The lights on the roads aren't even on, the big street lights. And I know this base because we lived at this base many years ago. So we're walking or skipping, and we go to the main buildings where NORAD is now. I don't think NORAD was there when we lived there, because that was, I don't remember what year, 90, 96, 95. But we end up going to this sidewalk, and she's showing me this building, and I know the building because I've seen the building. There's 3 different buildings, and they're tall, and they're 7 stories high, and then there's parking lot over here, parking lot over here, and we go up, and there's a sidewalk, and I see these military men. They're Air Force guys in strict blue camouflage military uniforms. They've all got their M16s ready to go, but they all have these, they're not wearing helmets, but they have this blank look on their face, like they're statues, stone statues.
Maybe they're mind controlled. They're in their trauma-based mind control assets, maybe.
And I'm walking up to say hi to them, but then there's no expression, there's no hello, there's nothing. And she's impatient now. This little hybrid girl. She, come, we need to go. Let's go. So okay, I break away from that and I go follow. And we end up in this little area where there's these stone seats. And I know the area. It's a little common area between where the bank is, the military food clothing store is, the BX. If they haven't changed things, it's all right. There's a little common area, and they've got these cement or stone seats in a square area. I don't think there's a fountain there. I don't remember that. But so she sits, and then she pats a seat next to her, wants me to sit next to her. So, okay, I go over there and I sit next to her, and I notice that she tucks her leg up kind of ladylike, tries to cross her legs, tries to put her knee under her, because I noticed her legs were very thin and she had these knobby knees, and then she had that blue tint to her. I got a really good look at her. Those blue eyes were mesmerizing, big, round blue eyes. And then the skin color, and I kept looking at the nose. I kept looking at her lips. Lips are very thin, but they're human. Ears were tiny, human, but smaller than what a human young girl's ears should look like. So she was probably about 6 years old, according to what I'm seeing. She looked like a 6-year-old child should. And all I'm taking in the dress. It's a little white blue flower dress that's, again, tattered, torn, not washed.
Where is it that she is having you sit right now? Like, where are you, inside a building at this point? Or?
No, we're outside. We're in this little common area, way away from the buildings. We're about half a mile away from those big buildings where the common area is.
Okay, and get back to what you're taking in about her appearance. She's in the drab dress.
Right, she's in the tattered dress. It's about a little past the knees. And when I noticed that her knees were knobby and her legs were so thin, that's when she kind of pulled her legs up. So like she was able to read my mind and what I was thinking, which was a little scary.
What do you mean by knobby?
Knobby, like the knees are not smooth. They're not full. Just kind of bulgy, bony. Maybe
the joints are even on the shins, or what? Bumps on the body are
right. So when you say knobby knees, it's kind of like the knees kind of stick out a little bit on a little girl or a little
joints.
boy.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. It's not that they have bumps or anything noticeable. It's just the way the knee is.
Yeah.
And a lot of little kids have that, so it's not a big deal. But I just noticed it. She immediately tucked her legs underneath her, which was very interesting.
Which was very interesting, yeah, because that sort of demonstrates maybe a little bit of insecurity about her appearance.
And that's possible. If they're teaching them to be human and live on our planet, then yes, they're probably teaching them to have insecurities. But and then all I got from that was taking that in, looking at her skin and thinking, hybrid, human gray hybrid. Okay, this is her ears, this is what her eyes look like. She's got that hair that's not really totally there. That also would not make her pass for human, because it's just it was like sparse still up here, a little bit longer like before, but still not a full head of hair for like a 6-year-old girl would have, or even a 6-year-old boy. And she had no shoes. She was barefoot, and I was wearing socks, which was interesting, but I had socks on. And I asked her, point blank, I'm looking at her going, why did you bring me here? Who are you? What is going on? And then all I got from her was, remember your dreams. Remember your dreams. That was it. That was the end. And I was, back in my bed, back in the guest bedroom. I think that's where that happened. Again, the guest bedroom. And I thinking to myself, got up, got coffee, and I'm like, okay, what was that? What was that about? Oh my God. Hybrid. A hybrid. I have no idea. I was absolutely
What was the whole purpose of that? Unless it was just to have contact with you. It seems in some cases that they desire contact for maybe no different reason than any normal human child desires contact with their mother. Want to be with their mother, and somehow surprisingly they're given free reign, sometimes to just. It seemed like she was like the whole sort of architect of this whole event, right? I mean, she was the kind of running the show almost, right?
She was telling me where to go, where to sit. Yeah. But the fact that the military men had those blank looks on their faces, that just still bothers me to this day. Because if that was really Peterson and we were really, that wouldn't have happened. The military men don't stand in a line like that. Not at 1 a.m, basically.
Right.
But
that's the expression of someone who's disassociation. I've seen the video footage of Clinton, where they caught him in a disassociated state, where just a blank stare, just no expression whatsoever. That's indicative of mind control, and that's what I would wonder.
And that's possible, but I just don't know if that was a dream or if that actually happened. Or
was it very vivid? Was it very vivid?
Oh my God, it was very vivid.
Yeah.
More as vivid as
I think she was telling you, remember your dreams, remember the experiences. She's aware that you're coding these real experiences as dreams. I think maybe that she knows that she knows the human tendency to not understand the reality of these vivid dreams as being actual events. And maybe she's saying, remember your dreams, remember the events,
Sure.
that we've gone through. Okay, well, we're at the 2-hour mark. Have you had any regressions done at all?
No regressions. I have enough in my head.
Yeah.
I'm at that point where I'm like, if any more happens, I'm just gonna have to deal with it. And I hope it doesn't, now that we're in the new place and on our property here in the eastern side of Colorado. But if it does happen, I'm just going to have to deal with it. I just can't. I can't bottle it up. I can't. I would just probably write another book. But I have my contact with Linda and several other people on Facebook, and that's helping me look at things sometimes a little bit differently.
Not to get into this too deeply, but what did Linda say about your husband? And I'm sure she remarked about your husband.
We talked about the military for hours.
Did she think that? What does she think? Just in short.
In short, she thinks that anybody around the military who gets abducted, it just seems to be a commonality. And when I told her my dad worked at White Sands Missile Range, even though he wasn't military, and this was in the 70s, twice he worked there. He was an electrical engineer. He went where the work was, and he became the head honcho there for the base for the electrical, whatever happened on the base. Yeah. He had a badge.
He had a pretty good security clearance then.
Yes, he did. Yeah, and but my husband being 20 years Air Force, when she found that out, she was like, really? And I said, yeah. She goes, this happens a lot around the military. And I said, yeah, but it didn't happen when we were in the as far as I know, it didn't happen when we were in the early military. But then again, I did go out at night and I did walk around a lot at night. Still, even being married, I did it. and I don't know why. Very strange.
Yeah. I mean, that's indicative
But yeah,
of
she's very, very adamant about that.
Mhm.
Probably thousands of people have contacted her that have had military around them, their families, and then the whole thing about families having this happen. You could be an aunt or grandmother or mother, or it could be father or grandfather that this happens to, and it's likely to happen to your son or your son's son eventually down the line.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so where can our audience find your book at?
Oh, it's on Amazon, and you can get it at Barnes and Noble and pretty much anywhere else. Just look it up. The next one I'm going to self-publish, I believe, and I think I'm going to just avoid the whole Amazon thing.
That wasn't a good experience.
It's just yeah. Kind of like to go a different route with the next one.
Yeah. That's probably good. Well, this has been really informative. We really got into some depth here. I love the detail that you've given us. And yeah, we'd like to have you maybe back on, maybe after you have your write your second book, and you want to do some promoting of that. Maybe we can have you back on.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah. So this was a great interview, and thank you so much for joining us. And sorry that Todd had some technical difficulties. Oh, he's back now.
I've always been here. my video is down for whatever reason. So, and then I was just talking to Kurt. He was having some YouTube issues, so I'm not sure what's going on out there.
I don't know. Yeah.
Or perhaps the government is listening in on us, and they're like, "Look, we're going to start muting everybody."
Man, Linda says that all the time. Every time we talk, we hear something on the phone. She's like, oh, "Okay, they're listening."
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for coming on and
my pleasure.
sharing your experience. I'd love to have you back on so that we could continue on with this. Is very good.
All right. Well, I'll keep in touch with you guys. You have a good night.
All right. You as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone, for joining in and asking questions, all that good stuff. And we hope to see you on the next episode of Paranomaly Beyond Disclosure. Thank you for tuning in with us tonight. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and follow to receive notifications when new content is made available. A Paranomaly Beyond Disclosure is looking to talk with ufologists, researchers, investigators, contactees, abductees, channelers, and more for upcoming shows. Or if you have stories, photos, videos, questions, suggestions, or comments, please contact us through Messenger or email us at paranomalypodcast@gmail.com. And you can also visit us at paranomalypodcast.com for more content and information, including all our social links. I thank you again for watching or listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode of Paranomaly Beyond Disclosure.